Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another bookcase video. Oh man, nothing new about women checking out a man's looks. Nothing new. This has always been the case. And reason why I'm bringing it up like that, because some people are going to be like, well, duh. But no, it's not a duh, unfortunately. And I'm saying that unfortunately, because you got a lot of guys, especially a lot of guys who call themselves a black pill, thinking they coming up with some new shit. Seriously. And then you got a lot of other guys, they just not even really addressing it, trying to say, oh, it don't matter. Please get the fuck out of here. You know, first of all, if somebody's insisting that it don't matter, they running some game on you. It's always been the case, right? And one of the reasons I'm even addressing this, because another part of it is when more mature men such as myself try to tell younger people what's happening, they're like, oh, you don't understand. It wasn't like that back then. Damn us, please. Seriously. Everything y'all going through now, the only difference is technology, especially a lot of young guys, right? That's the only difference. You know, because you get a lot of younger guys saying, well, with Tinder, it's changed. Well, first of all, you know, men outnumber women on all those dating apps and everything. Men outnumber women. And even then, all women ain't on those dating apps. That's first of all. All the dating apps is an enhancement. That's all it is. It's an enhancement. In fact, guys who like remember when you just had to go out here and just talk to women, which actually still happens. And I'm going to get into that later. There's still guys picking up women. They just meeting them just out and about and everything. Right? I'm going to get into that later and how they doing it. But they got to remember, everybody's not on those things. And, you know, when you want to talk about looks and everything, that's been going back. My first piece of evidence is this book right here, Heartthrobs. You should check it out. There's a link for it in the description box. And this was a college professor who wrote this, a woman. And she was talking about, she went back as far as the turn of the 20th century, talking about how women were checking out certain guys. And it was primarily on that looks thing. There were other factors in there, of course, but it was primarily on looks. You know, and this woman, shit, where is she? Hold up. Yeah, she's in England, and she was talking about it back. I mean, she was talking about this thing going back, right? And then, and that's a more scholarly type of thing, talking about it. But another thing is, and like I said about that age piece, where, you know, some younger guys think we don't know what it's talking about. Dude, this was in the community. Particularly when I see young black men talking about stuff like this, particularly young black men, I'm just like, y'all don't know what it was like. First of all, you know, if you didn't live back then, you cannot say what was going on. Like the looks piece has always been the case. And I'm just saying this just from personal experience. But it ain't, don't be like, well, you know, it's changed. No, and that one motherfucking chain thing has changed. Now, just like I presented this book, I got a link for it. Also in the description box are links to 2 Ebony magazine articles. If you ain't familiar with Ebony, because I think they might have went out of business, but that was like the primary magazine about black life since like the 40s. It's only recent that is like just kind of went out. But that was like the main thing. That was the magazine that you had to have. And there were articles, every now and then they'll have an article in there about handsome men and how to deal with it, whatever issues they got. Now, 2 of the links, now I got 3 links. I'll get to that 3rd link in a second. 2 of the links, one is from the 1970s, specifically 1974. The second one is from 1984. And both of them are talking about good-looking men. That was always been a thing. That was always being a thing, right? And I'm gonna tell you why in a second. That it's important to understand this. Women always been checking for good-looking men, always. Everybody acting like talking about some Chad and Tyrone and all of that. They acting like they invented something new. They got all this science. Get out in the motherfucking streets. Seriously, they always been doing that, always. But let's be real, all men don't have looks on that level that they're talking. Like you get some young guys now talking about, well, those look, it's over, it's over. Well, was your father some Chad or Tyrone? Your ass is here, right? Some had to happen. Some had to go down, right? There had to be a way some men got past it. And trust me, the looks were still promoted. Like I said, read the links. It's not even just an article. It's the original magazine that was scanned in, and see what they were saying and how women were responding to those men. Seriously. We were dealing with that. You know what? Coming up. And I said, first time I started getting into the game of man gets women was 1975 when I was 10 years old. And it was a basic thing, because even back then, women were checking for a certain look in a man. And I'm going to be real with you. I wasn't that look. Because back in the 70s and 80s, particularly in the black community, they checking for light-skinned dudes with good hair. Think about it. Because even in the articles I shared, these are mainly light-skinned dudes. They might have had a picture of Sidney Poitier, but that was rare. Yet despite all that, I got sex. And guys who looked like me, similar to me, got sex. But we weren't on the top of the thing. It was the same equivalent of not being what people saying about height, or like right now, height or jawline, the same principles were back then as well. Yet guys who didn't have what was considered handsome and stuff, they were still getting theirs. Like I said, how many of y'all got a Chad or Tyrone as a parent? And I'm dead serious. And I'm gonna tell you why though, because there's still another factor, something which, if you read my books, I'm talking about. Sex appeal. I presented a third article from Ebony, which was from 1979. And it talked about, it questioned 10 women on what they considered sexy. And it was all different. And it all wasn't based just on the face. I'm going to tell you something now. When you talk about that thing called game, a big part of it was being sexually appealing. And being sexually appealing was more than looks. Yeah, if a guy had those like dreamy looks and stuff, yeah, he got some. We recognize that. This book talk about that shit going back at least to the turn of the 20th century. I mean, that's always been the case. But did people see that and cry? Or be like, oh, I don't have that and everything. No, they figured out what they could do. That's where that thing called game got in there. They figured out, okay, you ain't this drop dead handsome dude. How can I still get with that woman? That's game. And it wasn't about manipulation or something. It was about, okay, you ain't dreaming, But let me see what I can do to get, first of all, to improve the look. What do I talk about? I say, look, I talk about body game. Incidentally, in one of those articles, you can go through the whole magazine because it's all scanned in. I saw it. I forgot which article it was or which magazine it was, which edition. But they actually had an ad for building your body. And then even when you look at that article I shared on sex appeal, what women found sexy, these women, a couple of them say, oh yeah, like a face, but they were talking about the man's body. And also another thing, remember in my car video yesterday, I used the word drip. Now, what is drip? Now, I said, if somebody don't know it, especially somebody young don't know it, they don't know what's up. Drip is just your style. They used to use the term swag. Some people still use it. And I'm going to be real, I can't remember the exact term because it changes every year, but it was always the same thing. How does that connect to game? A big part of the game I learned, I was like, okay, I ain't this light-skinned, green-eyed dude back then. But hell, I started learning how to dress. And I actually kept my hair. I actually had waves back then. I actually had waves. See, here's the thing with it. People thinking some shit new. Like, you got all these kids now got their waves, got that 360. I had no 360 back then in the 80s. Shoot. And that 360, shoot, they had wave kits and stuff. You know, you put that little thing in the hair. And in fact, if you read the autobiography of Malcolm X, he was talking about that back in the 1930s. Because really, it goes back even further. I probably could have found articles in Ebony going back to the 50s talking about it. But I was like, nah, this will be good enough. Seriously. A big part of the game was that drip, your style. Like if a man realized, okay, you don't get that drop dead handsome face or something like that, okay, let me dress well. Let me dress well. Which they still doing. What the kids doing now? The exact same thing. And I ain't talking about some guys staying on the internet. You know, staying on the internet, looking at some dubious studies and everything and crying and complaining. They got their style together. They got their style together. And especially their mouthpiece. Okay, yeah, you didn't have that look. And in fact, if you look at that article I shared on sex appeal, a couple of women even said they like how a man carried himself. But see, let's look at that thing drip again. Let's go back to that drip with kids, like when the young guys who actually getting pussy out here. Everybody talking about it's over, it's over. You got some young guys who probably never get a modeling contract, but you know what? They up there, they get their drip. They got their stylish clothes. They in decent shape. They ain't no alpha showpieces, but they in decent shape at least. Hell, a lot of them, shit, they still got some building to do if they're talking about being super muscular. They just got it. They making sure their hair right. They got their shoes, everything. Shoot, you can be getting kids out here robbed for it. You know why? Because they know it works. And really, some of them might be on some dating apps, but a lot of them just be at some malls and stuff. Like I said, I go to the walls. I pay attention to the young people. I got to. My sons are like still teenagers. And shoot, not so much my older son, but my younger son, he always making sure, I mean, that dude gonna be a shoe demon. He go in, he get the shoe, he'll go to the shoe store, look at the shoes and the outfits with the most drip. You know, with the most drip. And right now he's kind of chilled about it, but I notice he's very particular when he bothered to dress. You know, and they doing the exact same thing because coming up, it was like, okay, you don't got that, you know, that look that women are considering handsome or all of that. All right, let me make sure I'm dressing well. You know, in fact, that was like a fame for the high school I went to. It was like a fashion show up in there, so you had to be thorough. And then we went out and partied and all of that. And it's the same thing because I don't care. Look, even now, like I said, some people meet online, but that's just, all that does is just speeding up the process because, okay, when you out in public, right, women be choosing and they be looking at style. Because here's the thing, too, with that whole looks thing. How many men out here are truly got those looks? Most of them don't. It's a small percentage who got some looks. That's all they need. Yet some men who don't have those things actually getting sex and they're not spending money. Or not spending money on a woman. Because they know that, first of all, they'll get that drip, they'll get that style. That's a big part of the game. Make sure their hair cut tight, facial hair, everything tight. Then when that woman see them, that's the still, you know what? In fact, let's be real on it. If you approach a woman in the streets, she checking you out the same way if she looking at you online. The exact same way. Trust me. Women just doing that swipe left, swipe right, just in the real world as opposed to doing it on their smartphone. And it's the same principle. And the guys in the streets, the young guys in the streets, now you're a bunch of young guys who don't got no drip, don't got no style to them, don't got no game to them. That's all they doing. You know, they just making sure their style's right. I'll never forget when I was in a DMV one time. And I was just in line behind this young boy who was getting a license and his mother was with him, right? And I remember he said, "Mom, I need a haircut." And she was like, "You just got a haircut." He said, "Mom, it's been 3 days. 3 days. So you got this young guy now Young guy, definite millennial at the time. Definite millennial at the time. Realizing he got to get his hair cut tight. Because it was his style. And I give it to him, he was stylish. I don't know how women saw his face, but he was stylish. His clothes, everything was on point. But they were doing the same thing in the 70s. When I was starting learning the game in the 70s, that's the first thing that the men say. They always say, hold up, you gotta get your hair right, man. You gotta get your hair right. You gotta get some like stylish clothes. They use the term threads. You gotta get your threads right. You know? And then they say you still gotta talk. Because even now when people are talking about online, the younger guys, well, it's online, I get rejected. Well, it's the same thing. You go to a club, any place, it's the same principle. It's just the medium by which it's happening. And even with all that, even when you get selected, you still got to talk to them. So what's changed? Ain't nothing new about none of this. That was the game. And now let's bring it back around to looks. Let's get it back around to looks, right? Let's get it back around to looks. That's always been the case. Check out this book here. Go through this book. Go through this book. Get this book. Check it out. It's always been there. It's never been a time when it didn't matter. Let me say that again. It's never been a time it didn't matter. But the reality is, how many guys got looks like that? You know? But thing is, sex appeal, anybody can develop a sex appeal. Anybody. Anybody can. If you got a fucking dick, you can develop your sex appeal. Because all sex appeal is not just a combination of your physical appearance, but also your personality, how you carry yourself, how you style yourself. And let's get more into that style. The reason it developed was men had to figure out something. Like they know they ain't look like that alpha showpiece or that pretty boy or something. So they had to figure out something to enhance their look. It's the same thing women do. Most women don't look like dimes. Most women don't have that natural bone structure. They just figured out how to fix themselves up. Well, that was game, you know, because that's most of the game right there. You want them to swipe right, whether you're doing it online or whether you're doing it in the streets or you doing it in an office, wherever. Because women make that decision in less than 3 seconds. It's the same principle, and it hasn't changed. You just had an added medium, and they still doing it. I told you, when I go out sometimes, I'm in malls and stuff. I'm in grocery stores, especially malls. I'm up there watching it. I'm seeing dudes trying to get their rap on and everything. They going up talking to women. They ain't talking about, oh, maybe I see a picture online or something. Shoot, they shooting this shot. But they making sure they looking tight. And it's the exact same thing. All this shit out here ain't nothing but a rerun. And see, that's why you try to tell guys. In fact, right now, I get a lot of coaching clients who are in their 20s and younger. You know, and it's either some guy who need a little small tips here and there. I hit them with something, then they hit me back and say, hey, damn, Rom, that worked. Or some, they trying to ask me how to control it. These some young guys. And some of them I follow back on IG. And I say, you know what? They got some good drip. Seriously. And I'm bringing that up because here's the thing. You get some guys, they sitting back, they ain't winning. They want women, they ain't winning. And you got some guys telling you what's going on. They telling you how to win. Because look, it's like sports. They can do what they want in a football, basketball, come up with rules, but football game, you still got to score a touchdown. You still got to do the basics. You know, you still got to be able to block, run, catch, tackle, and all that. That ain't changed. You know, basketball, I don't care what you do. You still got to get the ball in the hoop. And you still got to do the basics. You still got to be able to run. You still got to be able to dribble. You still got to be able to catch. And when you talk about the game of man gets woman, let's be real. For millennia, ever since this species existed, men had to figure out, okay, how I'm going to pass my genes on into the future, but I'm not the most physically attractive out here. And that's always happened. Now, the only real issue out here, I'm going to tell you the real issue, because in indigenous cultures, The older men would put a boys through a rites of passage and tell them what they need to do. Biggest problem out here now, there's a disconnection between the older generation and the younger generation. The older generation, and this is real talk, and I'm saying this as a whole, the older generation, one, first of all, started out not by just taking the younger guys and telling them what's up, or at least showing them. And then the younger guys got to the point where they, shit, you know, they didn't expect anything. They didn't learn. So they seeing some stuff and they think it's the first time. And I'm just like, nah. That's the biggest problem. It's on both sides. Both sides don't want to listen. Both sides. One side don't want to teach, the younger side don't want to listen. So it's like some jacked up stuff. So you got some guys suffering. It was like, dude, just do this. And it's really not difficult, y'all. Anybody can develop their clothing style. Anybody can learn how to talk. You know, anybody can fix themselves up to the best extent. Any man can develop his sex appeal. Because, you know, with that sex appeal thing, that's more than just even your physical appearance. It's about your personality. You can develop your positive mindset. You can develop your masculinity. And you can actually develop your charisma, or at least to the point where you can hold an intelligent conversation. And I'm going to tell you what, that's how deep it is. You get some women, they get wet just off a conversation. Because the nature of a woman is they like to communicate. They like to talk. And that hasn't changed. I haven't seen a change. And let's be clear on something. You know, let's be clear. I don't see a ring on my finger. So I'm still out here. And I haven't seen a change. I haven't seen a change. Last 3 women I dealt with, 29, 32, 35. So I haven't seen anything. It's the same thing, you know, I was able to get these younger women, and even before them, or get their attention from them the same way I did, when I was when I was younger. The exact same way, because it's all about those principles. They haven't changed. It's about developing yourself to the best extent possible. And if you got looks, hey, great. If you got those looks that a consensus of women find, great. And even they have to develop some level of game. They still have to develop their style. Because if you know the guys who got it, the ones who really get it, they can also be some of the most stylish. They know. Got to get that style right. Got to be able to have that conversation. Because all that other stuff, because the appearance, everything, that's just the bait. But you got to have a hook. You know? Yeah, that drip, hey, it looks great. But that's the bait. You still got to have a hook. You still got to talk. You know? So, anyway, I wanted to share that. And I don't know. I don't even remember if I mentioned it. But I also have a link for a new series that I have on my Rom TV site. It's called Grown Man Game. I'm going to put a link in the description box. That's why I even have this on. I just recorded the inaugural episode for that series. Okay? But anyway, and I'm going to tell you what. Like I said, check out the article. Check out this book if you want to buy it, or at least check out reviews. Check out this book. Check out this check out those articles. Like I said, this ain't no new shit. This nothing but it's nothing but a rerun. Okay? It's nothing but a rerun. Because anybody who knows history and stuff knows it's circular any damn way. Like I said, you got all these young guys, got their do-rags, got their wave caps. I had my do-rags in the early 80s. I had my nice little do-rag. Shit. And my little thing and my little waves. I just laugh at this stuff. So, you know, it's seriously, it's nothing but a repeat. We already went through all this. We already figured out how to get past shit. We already figured out how to get women, even if we ain't looking like some male model. And the same shit works. The same shit works. And even if you still insistent on saying, well, I'm just going to use on like dating apps and stuff. You even got to have drip on there, okay? So it's like the same thing. And then at some point, even if she swipe right, you still gotta talk to her at some point. So it's like, come on. So anyway, y'all, that's all I got for today. I'll talk to y'all. Peace and blessings.